These two articles that go together perfectly. Why best-selling romance author is receiving backlash. Your hot fantasies are now problematic. So first of all, thanks for the support with the memberships and subscribe to our stuff and by subbing to the channel. Past 3 months have been weirdly good for YouTube. I'm going to miss it when it's gone, which is the way of the world. Be sure to follow on Rumble, Odyssey, or Bit Chute. Second, forgive my voice. I'm dying of a fever. So I saw these two articles from the Mary Sue, which is really on a different level, and I love the Mary Sue. I see Rachel Leichman, and I hope that some Chad who's into chubby whiner girls can save her, turn her into a mom so that she's busy with 4 kids and can't just endlessly kvetch online. And I think the Mary Sue must be a money laundering scam because something isn't adding up with the amount of articles they put out and the traction they get. And they got a lot of authors. It's like, it's just doesn't, I just don't see where the money is coming from. So one article, it's like everyone knows about the Mary Sue, but I don't know how many people actually like reading and passing eyeballs over their pop-up ads. So one article is talking about people, presumably YouTubers like Gary Neurotic, Geeks and Gamers, Eric July, those kind of guys, who are talking about crappy shows like She-Hulk, Star Wars, whatever else is. I mean, Willow, Rings of Power, the Wheel of Time type of stuff. It seems like there's a lot of crap out late in the past 3 years since the 2020 BLM riot, Summer of Love. The article was basically saying not to criticize those shows, which I laughed at. Criticizing crappy shows is not only a lot of fun, but I think it's very important to fight the culture war across many different battlefields. They're putting out toxic ideas and they need to be lampooned. As long as the people are watching those YouTube shows, then and the crap they're putting out, then it's important to crap all over those shows. The left wing is dangerous. Their ideas cannot be allowed to go unopposed. It's why these people hate free speech. You must portray them as soy jacks and yourself as a Chad. Always be crapping on SJWs. Think about what she is asking. She wants their shows to go out in the world completely sans criticism and parody. Why the hell would anyone agree to? Oh yeah, your ideas want to go out there completely unopposed? Sure, no problem. Just brainwash the NPCs. Hollywood is full of Epstein Island types who are constantly lecturing us on morality. Think about the insanity of that. The same people who stood up and cheered for Weinstein or all the other weirdos in Hollywood who are hurting women and children. Oh, we need to lecture the sheep who see our movies. Like, no, you really don't. Otherwise, we're going to shine a spotlight back on you. Which, what happened to Gia, Alyssa Milano? What happened to hashtag Me Too? Oh, everyone we caught was a left wing Hollywood producer. So we stuck to our guns and our principles and continued to. No, we just dropped Me Too. Are you kidding? We're not going to burn that. Was it Barbara Walters telling Feldman, oh, don't investigate all the abuse in Hollywood. You'll hurt Hollywood. Like people are looking at Barbara Walters or Oprah Winfrey offering little girls to Weinstein. You're looking at these people like, oh, you really are monsters. And somehow in my mind, I envision the monsters as all male, I guess. But there are female monsters out there too, and female enablers. I mean, if you look at Ghislaine Maxwell, who's probably listening to every footstep that comes down the hallway and just probably wetting herself. Anyway, so no, we don't need lectures from the worst people on earth, which are in Hollywood for some reason. F them in their A, crap on their shows, and crap on the people putting these Bolshevik ideas out in the universe. If YouTubers can make money laughing at socialist propaganda, then why exactly would they stop? And it's not just the money. The Bolshevik ideas are toxic. Always lampoon SJWs. They really don't like free speech. And then will they apply the rules to themselves? Do they not also criticize the stuff they don't like? Which brings me to the next point, where this romance book comes out and suddenly it needs to be approved by the cat lady army at the Mary Sewer. There's people on Twitter. There's a weird. It's like the Twitter has a weird sociology, a culture anthropological. There's a groups of people who are like reply guys to celebrities, but then there are also groups in this feminist circle of female books who are kind of the equivalent of reply girls, but they're like cat lady reply girls who they get social media attention, dopamine clicks, and then they have their own Patreon and Cash App and donations and stuff like that. So they're getting something from it. But when books come out, they will be they'll be like, it's their social media footprint to be the ones to like the political commissars for modern day left-wing ideas. Well, they will be sure to criticize anything that's problematic. And like these people are just like Twitter critics. So you have people who are writing these romance books and making a killing doing it. They're making millions of dollars writing. If you can get a series that hits with people and you could avoid getting canceled for political incorrectness, there's a huge market in that. And but there's a subset of these political commissars, these women who live on Twitter, who their existence is like they justify their existence is they're the ones who criticize these women writing books for any little problematic content they could find. That's their hobby, which they're kind of turning into a part-time job if they can get some money coming from it. And even if it's just from the dopamine, you look at them and you go like, so you're spending like hours a day not writing books, not creating art, not creating anything. You're just essentially criticizing some woman who's writing a romance book for some because it wasn't diverse enough. It's like you're telling them what to do, but you're not simply just writing your own comic book, graphic novel, story. You're not actually creating anything. You're just criticizing people who actually are creating that art. It's a weird subset. And maybe there'll be a subset of people who call them out. They're the people who want to cancel people for everything. What in 1984 George Orwell was talking about the women who make the best political commissars. Anyway, so this is the same left wing that is constantly clamoring to shut things down. They shut us down and censor us, but we're not allowed to criticize their garbage. This is the same, Leishman's at the Mary Sue who said South Park should shut down because it portrayed two sides to a story. And there aren't two sides to some stories. That's the voice of the authoritarian, intolerant left. This romance book has got some mildly NC stuff in it, which, according to the Mary Sue, as they said in the first article I just opened up on, if you don't like it, just move on. Instead, this article refutes the first article. They want to control what the author writes. They want artwork by committee because the standards don't apply to them because they're right and we're wrong. Here's a thought. What if the author and the readers enjoy NC stories, if they like the rough stuff, if that's how they enjoy their fantasy? Now, the funny thing about feminists is IRL, many of them actually do have these non-PC fantasies. It's kind of an open secret. The NC type of stuff and BDSM, whatever, whether it's your cup of tea or not, that's not really the point. It's that I find it's weird that Mary Sue doesn't respect that some women are very excited by NC stories. Isn't it their choice to read the stories and fap themselves furiously as they read, which is, yes, it's the point of many of these type of 50 Shades of Grey books, obviously. So most people have no problem distinguishing between a fictional and probably illegal fantasy world. Basically, I mean, it is what it is. And everyone has their equivalent from it. And the real world, yes, this is a fiction. They get that. You can't do this stuff in the real world. Most of us aren't sociopaths. They don't want this in the real world. They want the fantasy version of this, but Mary Sue suddenly turns prudish. Keep in mind, this is the same left wing that is grooming kids in schools with changing closets. The libs of TikTok, that lady was really doing the Lord's work. Libs of TikTok versus Taylor Lorenz, that's going to go down in history, assuming the Civil War doesn't wipe away all these digital records. They're absolutely okay with kids doing things that kids can't consent to, but they're against women from reading, fictional fap fantasies. The reason is, from what I gather, is that globalists at the Mary Sue hate the concept of the patriarchy and the dominant man controlling a woman like a sub. That's the real issue, because a patriarchal society is, even a very fictionalized one, is still a better one. A strong family makes a strong tribe and strong nation. A lack of the patriarchy destroys society. Look at the West if you want to know, that the meme of weak times or hard times and, weak men and create hard times, and where we are now in that cycle is like we are where what weak men have allowed. Or it's like maintaining civilization, you just can't sit back. It's a constant struggle. What feminism does to a society, we're on the downward slope of hard times as the face of Sodom shows up. So the feminists are pushing the very thing that will create the most brutal, savage future, the hardest of hard times that they can't even imagine. The man-made horrors phase of Tesla's nightmare. They have a need to destroy the West, and they absolutely have. Just take a look around you. Imagine if America had turned away from feminism 100 years ago, think how different and better the world would be. Most of these single cat ladies would be married with kids, and most of the single guys who are the equivalent, guys, video game playing guys who dropped out of society, like all those people who had dropped out of like real world relationships, and they have these digital relationships that are just built on nothing. Like they're spending their time being political commissars for people who are writing books, and you look at them as like, oh, you should be raising your kids, not your cats. It's like when you have a society that has a lot of people with a lot of free time, and it's still roughly a first world society kind of going into a second world society, but there's still a lot. It's like you still have the first world infrastructure, even though it's decades accelerated into the collapse, but you have people who are just stepping on the gas and they don't even know what they're doing, but they're doing it anyway, very loudly. It's like, yeah, all these people, all these angry single guys, to be fair, should be married with kids, should be busy with kids, and all these angry single women who in their 20s were chasing, that's the equation of they're chasing the top 20% of guys, and these guys have these girls on a circle. It's like, yeah, all that just leads to destruction of a society where literally arranged marriages would be a more stable society. Like you tell some of these people in their 20s that, and they lose their mind. But you tell them, 35, you're like, would you have been better off like if your parents had married you off to a good family, and you had like 3 kids and you're raising them like at 35? It's like, yeah, probably would have been a better individual choice, family choice, and societal choice. But there's a uh, there's a lot of forces against that. Instead, we have a commercial zone nation run by demons. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.